Hello, thank you for joining in. My name is Crina-Ludmila Cristea. Today I will be reading you from my new book, Pash and the Blue Bicycle. There might be prizes, also questions, so come on closer and listen carefully. I'm about to read you a story about a boy, his best friend, a monster, and a dream which lifts them all to a higher place. It's the first time I'm reading this story out loud to someone else other than myself. And I want to say thank you to the creator and the administrator of the page Children's Hospital Storytime. I am honored to celebrate my new book with you and to be reading it to you. Thank you so much. I know some of you are not feeling so well and you might be in hospital, so I am absolutely honored to be reading this story to you. So let's begin. And by the way, the dedication is for all the adventurous kids who dare to believe in achieving their goals, no matter what obstacles come in their way. Okay, let's begin. Once upon a time, there was a boy with curly yellow hair and blue eyes. He had the bluest eyes, as blue as the sky on a hot, clear summer's day. His name was Pash. He had many friends, but his best friend was not a human or an animal, although he loved both very much. His best friend was a blue bicycle. Her name was Sky. As it happens with friends, they didn't always see eye to eye. But every time Pash had spare time away from his tasks, he would spend it with his best friend. They both loved spending their time on the road through the countryside, often riding paths where the sides were covered in bluebells in the spring and rusty leaves in autumn. They cherished the free feeling and the wind blowing and tickling their ears. They loved the rush. They were so happy exploring nature together. Here's the first illustration. You can see Pash riding his bicycle. One day, Sky got hurt, but Pash was there for her, and she didn't feel the pain so much. They waited for the doctor to fix her. And then, as soon as she recovered, they cycled again through the countryside. After many trips, Sky experienced the sad loss of her metallic blue skin. Pash took her to the doctor again, and while she was being fixed, he went to the hairdresser's. Sky had noticed that Pash's sun-kissed hair had grown quite long, and Pash decided to cut it. When Sky saw her best friend again, he looked very funny and strange. His hair was now cut short. It was awkward to see her best friend this way, and she missed his blonde curls, but it was for the best. Now they could go places without worrying that they could get into an accident because of the unruly hair. They saw the road clearly and they could navigate safely. You can see Sky and Pash at the mechanic. Sky often saw her friend eating and drinking various things. Sometimes she was jealous because she wondered how all those things tasted. She didn't have those human needs. She was a bicycle. She required very little, but still she wondered. Often she saw her friend stinging himself with a needle, sometimes several times a day. She knew he had done so since he was 3 years old, but she was scared of needles and she was afraid for her friend. Ever since she had to go to the doctor, she was terrified of needles, even though the doctor helped her to feel better. She wanted to help Pash, but she didn't know how. She didn't know that for Pash it was enough her being there for him, going on rides and exploring the big wide world. Every time Pash had the injection, he looked better, as if he had more energy. She figured the injection must be good for something. And here you can see Pash enjoying time in nature, having some food, and check out this little creature. One day, Pash wanted to go on a ride, but Sky refused because he looked very ill. How bad she felt for not taking him on a ride, but she knew it in her heart that it was for the best. Pash had to go to the doctor this time, a different type of doctor, unlike the one the bicycle had, a doctor for humans. Pash had more injections done and he felt better. Although he had dark circles around his eyes and he still seemed exhausted, Pash put his helmet on and Sky carried him for a short ride in the countryside by the river where birds sang and ducks swam. She figured the fresh air and being outside in nature would raise his spirits and make him feel even better. It always worked. And here is Pash at the doctor. After they drove through the green and lush countryside, Pash sat on a bench and Sky rested by his side. Not that she was tired, because she wasn't, but she wanted to keep him company. She didn't want him to feel lonely or alone. She loved him as much as a bicycle can love a human being. There was a bird on a willow tree branch and the cloudy sky reflected on the river's surface. But Pash seemed morose, and he was never morose, not as long as Sky could remember. No, her Pash was never mean or grumpy towards anyone. What was it then? She misunderstood Pash, but just for a moment. He was not mean, he was sad. Sky wasn't sure why Pash was sad, but she had a clue. It must have had something to do with his recent visit to the doctor's office and his lack of energy. Sky wanted to help once again. She didn't know that this was beyond her powers. Only someone with greater powers than hers could help Pash. But Sky didn't understand that, so she tried to help her friend. She didn't want to accept that she was just a bunch of metal put together. She had a heart. She winked at Pash with her sparkly eyes and she nudged him to go on a ride with her. And so he did. Here's Pash looking a little bit sad. Pash rode her again, and they went once more on a new great adventure, this time through foreign hills. They passed wonderful waterfalls, majestic gardens and fountains, and pretty singing birds. They were so happy, Pash and Sky. One day, Pash had to go to the doctor again to do some more tests. Sky missed him so much. When he came back, he was not happy. The tests showed that he felt worse, and his illness, diabetes type 1 they called it, was growing stronger, or so they thought. Sky didn't know what diabetes meant. She was a hunk of metal, not a doctor. She had a heart because she loved Pash, but she didn't have a medical degree. She understood this much though. Diabetes was bad. He was a silent monster who invaded her friend's body and who wouldn't let go. She watched silently as Pash injected himself under his parents' supervision. His older sister was there as well, and together they looked so proud that Pash was such a courageous boy. Here you can see Pash with his family, and he's doing his insulin injection in his bedroom. And check out the little bike on the wall and the sign. Sky was proud too. But she knew Pash was courageous. She had seen it in their travels so many times. Sky knew Pash was way more powerful than the monster. Pash was her hero. He unintentionally proved it to her over and over again when he saved the little bird's nest from being destroyed by the wind, when he saved the colorful fish in the pond at home, while all around it he had planted fruit trees and bushes, when he gave a hot berry tea to the homeless man lying half asleep on the corner of the street last winter, and on so many other occasions. And here you can see fishes, you can see sky, the houses, such wonderful colorful houses, and Pash saving the bird's nest from the wind, from the storm. Pash had an invincible inner strength. Sky knew that, and she had faith he could do anything he put his mind to achieve. Sky left Pash to rest, but she watched closely because she was his friend, and she didn't want anything bad to happen to him. As he laid in bed with stomach bugs, Pash tried to think of better things. Slowly his eyes closed, and his mind traveled to greater lands. By his side was his best friend, the blue bicycle. Pash saw great waterfalls and great mountains. He could see the snowy peaks from the distance, if only he could travel all the way up there. His dream since he was a young boy had been to climb Everest, the highest mountain on earth, also named by Nepalese people the goddess of the sky. This was why he often went to bookshops and read books about how to get there and how to be prepared in those extreme conditions. Because, let me tell you, it was a dangerous business climbing a mountain which was about 8,850 meters high and still growing. People could lose their lives in the process, but Pash was not afraid. He thought about that mountain again, and as soon as he did that, Sky winked at him and they rode off. The cold couldn't touch them. Wind lashing at their cheeks couldn't hurt them. Nothing could stop them because they were determined to conquer the mountain's peak. Here you can see Pash with Sky traveling towards the mountain. By the way, the illustrations are done by the wonderful Rhiannon Thomas. They were a super team. They reached the top of the highest mountain, and from there they could see the most amazing view ever. The greatest mountain, the goddess of the sky, had great valleys, and the snow covered them all in a white sparkly blanket. The sun woke up too, picked his head from the clouds and joined in. He didn't want to miss all the fun they were having. He painted the snowy mountain in all shades of pink, and the two friends gazed in amazement. They were witnessing a miracle, and most importantly, they were together for good and hard times. They hugged, grateful for witnessing this wonderful view and seeing the world from its peak. Pash and Sky spent eternity exploring the highest of mountains, and they did it together. Nothing could stop them. They are happy. And there's a little bit left about information about the authors at the end, the illustrator and myself, and a little bit about the story behind the story, because this is inspired by a dear friend of mine. So check that out if you grab a copy. So now, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'll show you the cover one more time. Sorry that the images, you can see the text is swapped, is flipped. Unfortunately, the device I'm doing the live video, doesn't allow me to flip the image on live video, unfortunately, but hopefully you could enjoy the images just as much. So now, as I mentioned at the beginning, there will be a few questions, and those of you who answer them might get some prizes. You may receive a few copies of my book. So there's 3 questions. Number 1, what did you think of the story? So, what did you think of the story? Number 2 is, Pash dreamt of going to Everest. What do you dream? Where do you dream to travel, and why? Where would you like to travel and why? And number 3 is this one. What was the nicest and kindest thing Sky did for her friend Pash? And why do you think that was the nicest thing? So I'll repeat the 2 main questions. Where would you like to travel and why? And what was the nicest and kindest thing Sky did for her friend, and why? Why do you think that was the nicest thing? Please leave your name, where you're watching from, and your answers in the comments below. Please ask a guardian or a parent to write them in, and I will reply to you either on this page, or I'll reply to them anyway, of course, but yeah, I will get in touch with you soon, hopefully, as soon as you will send me some answers. A couple of minutes, hours, we'll see. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope it brought you a little bit of joy, and if you did, please share it with others. Please share the video with others so they can see it. Maybe they've missed it. Yes, as mentioned at the beginning, I'm honored that I'm able to celebrate my book. It's a new book. It's only about a month old, so it's wonderful that I get to celebrate this book with you, that I get to read my story that means so much, that I get to read it to you. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.